The city has risen from a Dutch trading post of timber and marsh to a steel archipelago of glass and grid, from sail masts to radio towers to satellite dishes blinking against the high atmosphere. Centuries of piling stone on landfill, iron on stone, and light on iron have produced this dense vertical script along the Atlantic edge. Now it is Monday, September 10th, 2001. Just after sunrise, and New York stands in a pale, late summer haze, its towers catching the first light like quiet instruments waiting to be played. The day begins as an ordinary one. If this reconstruction works, the next city is yours to choose. The southern tip of Manhattan holds the frame first, the World Trade Center complex. Two silver-gray monoliths rise out of a low podium of concrete, marble, and dark glass. Morning light slides along the twin facades, each window a small repeating cell in a vast grid, the whole surface humming faintly with air conditioning units and elevator machinery hidden within. At plaza level, a fountain murmurs beside patterned stone, and a few early figures cross the open space, reduced to moving dots between planters and low trees. The towers anchor the skyline, not as symbols in this moment, but as infrastructure. Offices, cables, ventilation shafts, service corridors stacked a quarter-mile into the air. Here, a few blocks north, the narrow streets of the financial district form a canyon of older masonry and newer glass, the geometry of 19th century stone pressed hard against late 20th century curtain walls. Delivery trucks idle at loading docks, engines low and constant, while steam seeps from manhole covers, rising in thin white columns that dissolve against the facades. Lettering on awnings and carved lintels is present, but distant, reduced to bands of contrast and rhythm along the street line. Underground, the subway grid, tunnels, switches, platforms, carries trains that shriek briefly into stations, then vanish again into the dark. Steel rails, overhead wire, stitching lower Manhattan to the outer boroughs, again and again. Across the East River, the Brooklyn Bridge stretches in a long stone and cable arc. Its granite towers stand in the soft morning light like weathered gateposts, while the web of suspension cables forms a fine mesh against the sky, vibrating slightly with wind and the low tremor of traffic. Cars and buses move in continuous streams, roofs catching brief glints of sun as they pass between borough and island. Below, the river itself works slowly, a green-gray, opaque machine pushing ferries, tugs, and barges along invisible channels carved by centuries of commerce. Once the city's boldest leap, the bridge now functions as one artery among many in a circulatory system that never fully rests. On this street in Midtown, around Times Square, the city's appetite for light and signal becomes visible. Tower faces layer screens upon panels, images and colors shifting in programmed cycles, muted now by daylight. Lettering is everywhere, yet flattened into blocks of color and pattern, more texture than language from a distance. The hum of transformers, ventilation fans, traffic, all blending together. Steam curls from a street repair stack, orange and white striped plastic shaping the vapor into a vertical plume, briefly softening the hard lines of asphalt and concrete before it dissolves into the warm air. Beneath all of this, the subway system forms the unseen skeleton of the day, a lattice of tunnels, mezzanines, and platforms stretching under rivers and boroughs. Trains arrive with a rush of displaced air, brakes squealing, doors sliding open with mechanical regularity. Fluorescent lights flicker across tile, paint, and riveted steel, revealing mosaics and structural scars from earlier decades. Up to this point, the system has absorbed blackouts, fiscal crises, expansion, neglect. and it continues to move millions each weekday, binding distant neighborhoods to the core with predictable intervals and familiar sounds. Along the Hudson and East River waterfronts, piers and ferry slips mark the city's older working face, now partly transformed. Some remain active, cranes, containers, forklifts arranged in functional rows. Others have become parks, benches and railings set into repurposed timber and concrete. Ferries arrive and depart in steady patterns, their wakes fanning out in white streaks against pilings and seawalls. Across the water, New Jersey's towers and warehouses reflect the same morning light, a mirrored band of glass and steel framing Manhattan as one node in a larger harbor system. In the outer boroughs, Queens, the Bronx, Staten Island, Brooklyn, the scale shifts, vertical to horizontal, yet the grid persists. Brick apartment blocks, wood frame houses, commercial strips stretching toward the horizon. Elevated trains cast repeating shadows, steel girders and crossbeams moving slowly across pavement. Here the soundscape thins, a distant siren, a passing train, the low rumble of a plane descending toward the city's edge. Above it all, the airspace is choreographed. JFK, LaGuardia, Newark, runways cut precise lines across reclaimed marsh and shoreline. Aircraft taxi slowly, then accelerate into the sky. Flight paths arc over neighborhoods, waterways, highways, each one part of a larger schedule of movement connecting cities, continents, time zones. It is a city designed to concentrate energy, information, and motion into a narrow strip of land, and that concentration makes it both resilient and exposed in ways not yet fully tested. On this street in Lower Manhattan, as afternoon shadows lengthen between tall buildings, the World Trade Center still dominates the western horizon. Unremarkable, steady. Office lights flicker on, small rectangles appearing across the gray grid as the day moves toward evening. From here on, the routines of this Monday will leave behind records. Train logs, flight, manifests, security footage, weather reports, to be re-examined later, frame by frame, second by second. As the last unbroken day before a sudden rupture, night arrives, subways run on reduced headways, bridges and tunnels carry late traffic, ferries cross under a darkening sky. Streetlights click on in sequence, casting pools of light across sidewalks and facades. Apartments glow in scattered patterns, each window a small node in the larger electrical web. The grid holds, as it always has, through storms, blackouts, previous shocks, unaware of what will soon be asked of it. Near midnight, the city settles into its familiar rhythm. Garbage trucks move on schedule. Maintenance crews descend underground. Cleaning staff work through empty offices high above the streets. Rivers darken into reflective bands. Ships anchor or drift toward berths, guided by harbor lights. Stone, steel, wire, water. The machinery continues to run, carrying millions toward a dawn that, in this moment, is expected to resemble every other. This is one moment in a longer archive of cities shaped by time.